Okay, so I just wanted to use this time to show you a little bit more about MyMathLab and a little bit deeper. Last year we had some parents that had a different view of MyMathLab than what we hoped because they didn't see it the way that we saw it. They saw it the way that their kids saw it, and we didn't like that too much because we know how MyMathLab runs, and a lot of times it just seems like annoying homework through the kids' eyes, right? So the first thing I just wanted to point out is that this is the website. If normally they would email me, but if your student says that they couldn't access the website, that actually might be legitimate. Occasionally there's some glitches that will happen through this website, but if you go to this website, MyMathLab for School, Sean, let me share the screen. I think it unshared when I plugged in. Here, let's see if, can you see it now? Okay, great.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is the website right here, mymathlab4school.com. So kids right now, nowadays, will say MyMathLab, and then they'll click the first thing, and they'll go to this website, which looks pretty similar, and it is the same website. It is the same thing, but for some reason, this leads to more glitches with cookies, which I'm not even sure exactly what those are, but it does lead to more glitches that way, especially through iPads. So if you go to the MyMathLab for School, it's exactly the same buttons, but for some reason it causes less issues. So that's my first thing that I want you to know. They will click sign in like that, and your student will only have one of these boxes. Obviously, I have a bunch because I teach different periods. I'm going to go to white 6, that W6 down there, which is the only one that you would have. Luckily, both of your students are in that class. That's great. Okay, so this is what I see when I log in. So a really cool thing about MyMathLab is that I can see how much as a whole the class has done on their homework. I can also look at individuals, obviously, but like this 2.5, 69% of the class has completed it. And then I could click that, and I don't want to click it because then it'll share the students' individual grades, but I can click that and see students' individual grades and also how long they've spent on it. You can do that as well with your student's password. That's actually what I would very much advise. If your students' homework grades do not match their test or quiz grades, I would go to look to see how long it has taken them to do their homework. As you might have heard on Parent Teacher Night, there are apps that do it for them. And so those apps make it go a lot faster. And that's why they like them, but that's why we do not. So let me switch this from, and so it really just depends on the assignment. She asked how much time each assignment would take. It really just depends on the assignment. I don't normally, I look more at how many questions rather than how much time, but it's usually, it really just depends on the student, but I would guess about an average of an hour, maybe an hour 15, depending on which assignment. That's average. But I mean, I had most of the students on the assignment that was due yesterday was like 20 minutes, but there's 2 assignments. That's why I said about an hour. There's usually 2 assignments per night. That's usually a problem. Yes. And again, it just depends on the problem as well. There's some problems that say, what's the opposite of 3? Which the answer is -3, right? That one goes really fast. But if it's one where they have to solve the problem for X, that one should take a little bit longer. So that also is a good thing to look at. If you have concerns, you can always email me and I can look at the average time spent on that assignment that's given to me actually through MyMathLab. It's not our students, it's all students average that uses MyMathLab. Okay, I'm going to click student home so you can see what your student sees when they log in. So they log in, and I mentioned this on Pi Night as well. They log in, the first thing they see is this calendar. This calendar has these two dots here, and it shows me that there is homework due tomorrow. If you click those, it'll go to the homework, but also those are down here as well. So this says due at 9:30. That is when your student's class starts, on 9/7/23. So that is tomorrow at the beginning of their class. The score will auto update as you do the homework, and I'll show you that as we click on the homework and look through that. You can see that this is 14 questions and the next one is 16 questions, average of about 30 total each night. Specifically in my class, I give a decent amount of time at the end of class to work on that as well. So that offsets some of that time we mentioned earlier. So that's one place they can see their homework. One thing I do advise the students is look here for your homework, because this is where we assign homework for math. Canvas, it's still there, but sometimes it doesn't translate perfectly because we're updating two websites at the same time. And I always say we don't turn in homework on Canvas. Other classes you do, so check that more often. Also, Canvas auto fills 11:59 p.m. on the date that it's due. And sometimes students will come in and say, hey, it said it wasn't due till midnight. And I'm like, well, you have a quiz right now, so you need to have done it. So just keep that in mind as well. As you can see, I have worked on 2.3 homework and I've gotten a 2.5. I did that just a second ago, just so you could see that it auto updates as it goes. Now let me go to the homework tab. This is the main place that students usually go to get to their homework, because you can see all of their assigned homework. So down here, you can see 2.3 has the words, well, it did have the words past due. That means that they haven't even started it. But I went in and I did one problem, and you can click to see score right here at 2.5%. That homework still is a hyperlink, an active link, because in the high school, you have until the day that it's due for full credit, and then the period after that for half credit. I personally, and I think Miss Higginbotham does as well, I make the website do that calculation for me. So this homework was due last class, and right now it's still open, and they can still do it, but it'll give them half credit for all the problems that they're doing. So it auto cuts it in half. No. The next time I see them. Yes, the next time I see them. So one full block day as well. Miss Hinkey's class, she decided to do that calculation herself. So she does that slightly different. It locks completely on the due date, and then the student comes in and gets a password from her to do it for the half credit. So that's why that is still active, but these are the two that your students should be working on that's due tomorrow. So if you're logged in, you might see that this has a little bit more percent for you, hopefully. Okay, so next I want to go to a homework assignment and show you what it looks like. So they click that. At the top, it will say 50% deducted for questions completed after the due date. That does not mean that there is a late submission penalty already happening. That's just warning them after the due date that will happen. I have students email me all the time saying, why does it say this at the top? It's just warning you, this is what would happen. It still says due at 9:30 on the 7th. Okay, so just one quick question. Maybe a couple if you want to see the different styles. So this is one of the questions that they could be doing tonight. Let me see if there's a quicker one than that I can maybe do in my head. Nope, those get harder. Okay, let me just show you. So let's say I end up thinking that answer is y equals 4. It says that is incorrect. And I mentioned this on Pi Night, but now we get to see it. It says, okay, you're supposed to simplify each side of the equation, then use addition and multiplication properties to get the variable alone on one side of the equation. So giving you a little hint on how to solve it. Let's say you don't believe it and you put the answer 4 again. It says, sorry, try again. Here's the hint one more time. So I'll show you on the next one. I meant to point it out. That red button down at the bottom now says final check. It did say check answer. So now it says final check, and you can click final check, and it says the answer is -5. You put 4. You can click a similar question, or you can go to the next question. The similar question, it gives you an X right now, but it gives you almost the same question with new numbers for you to try again. So let's say that answer was negative. So let's say maybe -3. No, still not correct. And you can do that. You can click similar question one more time. And, oh, hold on. Because it opened a pop-up. Let's see if I can share this window instead of that one. Okay, Sean, can you see that now? Okay, great. So you can do that 3 different times. So you have 3 try agains, and then after those, it will give you the final check, similar question last time, and it'll even warn you, your instructor has limited this to 3 times, and this is your last attempt. So it'll tell you, so there's no confusion. And check your answer, and then last, final check. A lot of times I'll tell students, when you get to that final check on the 3rd attempt, if you haven't already sent me an email and said, I'm really struggling on this problem, that's when you should email me, because I want you to get the answer right, especially if you've tried 9 tries, and we need to figure out where you're making the mistake so we can move on with the assignment. So if I click final check one more time, it says that, and you can see that that similar question button is gone. So then they have to go to the next question, and there's no way to get that credit back. Up here, it auto updates. So just so you know, it will auto grade as they see it. So their work, in our classrooms, we give them whiteboards, markers, and erasers every time. If you would like them to show their work at home, I've had kids buy whiteboards, markers, and erasers, or spirals, but we did have a place to show their work a while ago, and it was very hard for them to write on. We want them to put it down somewhere. Unfortunately, they really like not showing work, and so we encourage that. And one way we encourage not using those apps is with the daily quizzes, which we'll talk about in a second. So a couple helpful things. If you look down here at the bottom, there are a few buttons. This first one, view an example. If they really don't know how to do this problem, they can click view an example. And let's see if I can move it out of the way. You can see that that is almost the exact same problem. And they can click through, and it'll tell them the steps and explain the steps a little bit. So if they're really struggling and they just can't. Yes. What?
If they click on the help me solve this at point, so like when they were on question 1.
Yes. Yes, that is there for the. We are actually on our first attempt on question number 2, and you can see that.
Okay.
So one thing you said is, can they click on the help me solve this? I advise them not to click this. I advise them to click this. View an example. Help me solve this. If you click that, if you take a look at that problem, it's exactly the same. And so that helps them solve that, but then it takes away one of their similar questions. And so I tell them, don't do that, because while you're learning the steps, it takes away three free tries right there. And so I would rather them use the view an example, kind of work through that problem on their own, and then apply it to their numbers. Let's see. So I would say don't click help me solve this. It takes away some opportunity for you. Also, you got a textbook right here that they can go to. Rarely do we do that, because view an example is basically what the textbook would say anyway. I do not see it on this assignment, but a decent amount of the sections will also have a watch a video section here, and it's a different person besides me teaching this subject. So if I taught it one way and they just really didn't understand it, then they can watch somebody else and see if they explain it a way that might connect with them better. I already told you about late grades, so let me move on to the quizzes that I just mentioned. Let me make sure that you can see this, Sean. Let's go back here. Okay, so the next thing is our quizzes. Every day, or most days, in every math class that uses MyMathLab, we have decided to do daily quizzes. And those are more just daily checks. They're labeled as quizzes. They put in the quiz category, but there's a lot of them, so they even out just like homework does. Very, very close. So we chose to do daily quizzes because there were a lot of students that were not showing their work and were finding the answer somewhere else. And if we ask them for their work, PhotoMath and other apps actually give them the work too. So it didn't change anything. And so we decided to do daily quizzes. Normally those are between 6 and 10 problems, replicas of the homework, similar questions of the homework. So different numbers. I've got somebody. So we do daily quizzes to check if they understood the homework and did the homework. Those are pulled directly off the homework and they look just like. So let me show you. Let me pick one. Okay, so here is 2.1 daily quiz. They took this the other day. They came into the classroom. We give them a password and they took it. You should see a grade there if you're logged in, or if you have them log in later, you should see that grade. Over here, you can see it. You can see I gave them 12 minutes to do those 6 to 10 problems. It depends. Sometimes I make it shorter quiz, so the shorter time limit. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. So there's 15 minutes. Sometimes it just depends on the assignment, just like normal. If they did their homework and did it well, meaning they got 100 on the homework, and I think it even takes into account how many similar questions they used. They will get something called a mastery point. And a mastery point is the way that you get to earn your quiz retake. So right here is my first quiz. I scored a 16 on it. And so I would love to retake that quiz. And 2.1 daily quiz retake is right here. But I can't do it. And one of the ways that I know I can't do it is this green flag. The other way that I know is if I click it, the whole screen gets gray and it says you cannot work on this. It says you need to earn 2 mastery points. There's the 2 right there. It says 2 out of 3 because there's 3 opportunity, but only 2 are what's necessary. So I can click this link here, but that link is the exact same link as this one right above what I'm looking at. So you can see right here at the top, it says mastery points earned. This black line is the number of mastery points necessary to take this quiz. Please keep that in mind because a lot of times students think they need to complete this entire line. And sometimes there's a lot of available mastery points. There's sections that have 16 available mastery points. They don't need to do 16. For my class specifically, I chose 2 for the first retake and 3, meaning 1 extra for the second retake. So how do we earn mastery points? The first is getting 100 on the homework. And they usually have 2 homework assignments. So they normally get 2 mastery points for free if they get 100 on their homework, meaning they get to that black line immediately. So retake 1 is a lot of times free. If it's not free or they didn't get 100 on their homework, they go to this quiz me section. And that's going to cause a pop-up. So let me switch this over for those on Zoom. So this pop-up comes up and it says, you have 5 questions to do. You have unlimited tries and you have to get 100% on this quiz. So there are 5 questions. They have to get 100% right. They can do quiz me's with tutors. They can do them with friends. They can do them with me. These are purely to get them to learn the material and study. They can do it with anyone in order to get to the mastery points necessary to take the quiz. The quiz needs to be done with me. So this quiz me is how they earn their mastery points. Let me get back to the main screen for you guys on Zoom. So that's how they earn their mastery points. Each quiz me is 1 mastery point. So that's a good question. I thought it was going to gray it out. If you don't get 100 on the quiz, this button will turn gray and it won't be clickable. It won't, you can't click it. So what you'll have to do is click practice. And this is where a lot of students get confused. And all you have to do is do one practice problem and it'll open the quiz back up. A lot of students come in here and they're like, now I have to do 12 problems to earn the quiz me, then do quiz me to earn the quiz. And that's where a lot of students get overwhelmed and think MyMathLab is absolutely terrible. But you do not have to do that many. But everything about this website is about learning from your mistakes and then earning a retake, earning another quiz. So if this quiz me is blocked off because you didn't get 100, you need to get 100. And if you didn't get 100, you need to study a little more. So they're going to make you do one practice problem and then the quiz me opens back up. Yes. Yes, exactly right. Quizzes do not grade as they go, or quiz me's. Both of those do not grade as they go. So they have to type in their answer and move on. Just so you're aware of that. So that's mastery points. Again, you can get them two different ways. You can do well on your homework, or you can do the quiz me's. Just depends on your specific teacher about how many mastery points are required. I believe me and Miss Hinkey have tried to set it up where you get the first one basically for free most of the time. The last thing I want to point out to you before I answer any questions y'all have is this gradebook tab over here. This gradebook tab is your students' grades. So if I go in, you can see any assignment that I've worked on. This gradebook tab is great because you can see the time spent on that homework assignment. You can also see when that student worked on that assignment. So a lot of times I'll go into this tab and see that it is 10 minutes before my class started. And then I'll see, well, they did it in 7 minutes because they only had 7 minutes to do it. And that's why they just had to rush. So that's one place I would highly advise parents to look, especially if homework grades don't match quiz grades or test grades. Another good thing about this gradebook tab is you can see your old quizzes. And so they can click review and look at their old quiz before they retake the retake one. And the quiz and the retake are the same questions, just similar. So if they study that quiz, that's a great way to do well on the retake. Let's see what else here. Active percentages. Oh, and the last thing I want to point out is this, please, I know I said MyMathLab is for math, but your calculated grade is not for math. MyMathLab, I mean, your calculated grade is still through Canvas. This overall score right here, this 742 that I'm doing terribly on, that is including anything and everything they've turned in on MyMathLab. So it's going to include quizzes and retakes. It's going to include reviews that might not be due for a grade. And so that's going to be skewed based on the grades that actually get put in the grade book. So I would not look at this as an overall grade, but I would definitely advise looking at individual grades here. One thing I didn't mention about the retakes, we take the highest grade. So if they do 83 on the first one, and then for some reason just mess up the last two, we still take the 83. So if you go to this gradebook tab, you can organize it by quizzes, and you can just look and say, okay, well, you got an 83 and you got a 67, but you still have one more retake. You need to go in and take that. Those quizzes are due by test day. So they need to make sure that they stay on top of that, because a lot of times they try and cram all the retakes in the day before test day. And sometimes we can't stay after school late to help them with that. That is all I have. If there are any questions, anything I spoke too fast about or didn't explain, is there any questions for me? So the retakes, she asked when we can take the retakes. Retakes can be done at any time in our classroom or in ASP. But it can be at any time. I can be teaching and a student will come up to me and I'll type in the password real quick. I don't know if I mentioned, we have to type in the retake passwords, or else they would type them in anywhere. And yeah, so, but I can type it in while I'm teaching, and then they'll just go sit in a desk and do it real fast. But yes, a lot of times students will email me and say, can I have the password for the quiz? I'm like, you're at home. I can't do that. It's a quiz. Is there any other questions about this? Anyone on Zoom? Do you have any questions for me on that?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully, I covered everything. Those are the 3 places they will really look on this website. You can see that there's also a study plan tab. That is just extra questions. So if you have a tutor and you want to work through extra questions, that's another place that will never apply to their grade. So let me click on that and just show it. So there, it's still the QuizMes, but there are just infinite options. They have infinite similar questions on stuff like that. It's a great asset as well. I think that is it. There is an online book, but like I said, it does not really lend itself to how we do things here because of that view an example button. All right. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, hopefully I gave you a little bit of insight into this. Your students know it in and out already because they've done quite a few assignments already through that. And MyMathLab is a tool we use all the way through pre-calculus. AP courses do not use it because there's a specific curriculum for those. But any honors or on-level class, we use that in the high school. Okay. So you will be using it the rest of high school unless you move into APs. Oh, yes. If you have a question, you can email me. My email is daniel.megasin@popcs.org. If you would like your student's password, I have them for my classes I teach. That's something I asked them to write down for me this year. The other teachers didn't do that, but you can ask your student for their password. I usually tell them to write down something that they won't forget, not something that's going to keep the bad guys out. Nobody's going to do their homework for them, hopefully. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and log out of Zoom. Thank y'all for showing up. Hopefully I helped you out a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.